they, especially the most meaningful one, was the cingulus, the belt,
Cincture.
cincture. So this had the strongest meaning, because this meant, at that moment, the cingulus was worn by soldier, as a military thing. And this means, and we have so one of the first instances of this idea of the monk of a Christ soldier of Christ. So the belt means a lot of things. It means that he's really a soldier of Christ, etc., etc. So, and they spiritualize and moralize every part of the habit. And that's why habit begins to mean, the habit who meant way of living, now is shifted to dressing, but it's not shifted, it is because the dress has become an habitus. You understand? No? It's not that the habit changed the meaning, it is that the dress changed the meaning. Because now the dress means a way of life. I don't know if it exists in English, this proverb, the habit.
Don't make the monk.
Yeah, it exists.
Yes.
Yeah, it comes from this. It comes from this. Because then they
Clothes, in English, clothes make the man.
Yeah, close by, like in German.
Yeah.
So in Italy it's the contrary. In Italian and Spanish it's the contrary.
Yeah.
But it's the same. Just you should see the dialectics. Once that the habit is the monk, is the way of living of the monk, then the problem begins. But if it's not, if it doesn't correspond, what shall we do? Okay. So there is a thing that will be took by the church. The church will take, as it always does, the most powerful strategy. Why the church had been so strong? Why the church could live so long? Why the church is the oldest institution in Western civilization? Because it always acts in that way. It will eventually exclude and condemn, but in the very act in which something is excluded, it was taken with it. So, for instance, we have a strong antagonism between monasticism and church, but the church will take everything. So first, this idea of the moralization of the dress, and to dress, to distinguish himself from the other. Now, since that moment, the priest will be dressed in a completely different way as than other men. This comes the monk on the first. The monk made it in a very simple way, and the other will be in a very complicated way. But then the other thing we will see is the fact that one other important character of monasticism is that they will regulate and rule the whole of the life. The whole literally. No minute, no hour in the monastery is not regulated. It's not linked to something. And everything is regulated in the form of clock. The book which contains the orders of the office of the prayer of the monks, according of the hours of the day and the night, is called Orologium Vitae, clock of the life. Orologium is in the Book of Hours.
Book of Hours.
What we came in the beginning, in the first name, in the here we are in the 4th, 5th century, so much before the Book of Hours. And the book is called Orologium Vitae, clock of life. Does it exist horloge in English? Horloge?
No, it's
horologium is more than a clock.
Horologer is a watchmaker, but
We
it's
have
not
watch
used any
and
longer.
clock, but we don't have horloge like in French.
Yeah, so and this at that moment clock did not exist, the clock like we have. So they had a big problem for that, because at that moment the clock had the form of the sun. What do you call it? Sun clock.
Sundial.
So okay, but when the sun was not there and during the night, big problem. So we see, for instance, that we have the text of Castelloros in the 6th centuries is very proud of having bought a water clock. And he says, now also in the night, we will absolutely regulate the light. So,
I just had a question that's outstanding. Is this? Can you make a direct connection between this and Carl Schmitt's principle of representation? Or will we discuss that at all? Because
no, we will arrive to something about Schmitt, but perhaps it's too early. What do you
I was trying to make the connection just to see if that was.
No, let's wait a moment. Let's wait a moment. It's too.
Oh, we'll get there.
I would like to put Carl Schmitt in a monastery. But
Sorry.
So the monastery is the first place in Western society in which life is completely regulated. Because after that, now we think that the place for that was the modern industry, the modern firm with the Taylorism. No? And we think that we imagine the first time that life was completely regulated was that moment. Not at all. Many centuries before, there was a regulation of life conceived this way, and which was the model. The model was a passage in Paul letters, the first letter of Paul to the Thessalonians, in which Paul says, pray ceaselessly, continuously. There is the idea of a ceaseless, continuous, uninterrupted prayer. A dialeptos prosequis. Pray without interruption. They took literally this. In the church, this was never done. But then they took literally this and they transformed the life in an uninterrupted prayer, or even it was not prayer, it could be word, but it was a kind of prayer. So there was a kind of equivalence. Every activity of the life must be in a ceaseless prayer. And these two, once they did this, the church began to ask questions, because till that moment, the church, the priest and the church, the communities of the Christian, the model was 3 times a day. The recommendation was the Christian had to pray 3 times a day. So if we take the most ancient text, the Traditio Apostolica, one of the most ancient liturgical Christian texts, we find this. They recommend to the priests and to the Christians to pray 3 times a day. The monks pray without interruption. And this was taken by the church. So the church will then organize and create this incredible thing. It is the liturgy of the year. So they will create this book in which, according to the calendar, each day and each hour has its own office. Then that it will be done in normal church. But I mean, they accepted the idea that for a Christian there is what we could call a spiritualization of time. Time must be spiritualized. There is no minute which will not correspond a prayer, an act, whatever, something. And this was taken by the monk, because the monk were the first one who organized Christian life according to a complete spiritualization of time. As we are speaking of time, we can stop.